She is, as you know her, NBC legal analyst, a former U.S. attorney, and a professor of law at the University of
Alabama.
She joins us now. Finally, Joyce Vance. Hi, Joyce Vance. Was that enough of a build-up?
Hi, I'm so glad to be with you.
This is exciting. No, you got busy with other stuff, and we never figured this out. But I have worshipped you from afar, as you know. Oh, and you tweeted once about having all the legal ladies on your porch in Alabama, and I tweeted back at you. I'm like, please, can I come? I won't say anything. I just want to sit there and listen. To you and Maya and Jill, and
You'd be an essential part of that, and you're welcome to be a legal lady along with us.
Oh, no. I know. I have to go to law school for these interviews. It's really intimidating. But just as a lay person, Joyce, it was so infuriating, Bill Barr's testimony. I can imagine on a legal level. I feel like we just can't have it. We can't have the district attorney repeatedly lying to Congress. I mean, I don't know what else you call that. But it was arrogant. Right? His tone with people was just insufferable, was it not?
He was arrogant. He interrupted people, mostly people of color and women. And so, I'll sort of merge my reaction as a layperson and my reaction as a lawyer and say we can only have a criminal justice system and a justice system that works if we trust the people that are running it. And that's why typically people like attorneys general go so far out of their way to ensure not only that they act with integrity, but that their actions have the appearance of integrity. And Bill Barr just apparently does not care about that at all. He plays word games. He tells half-truths. On occasion, he tells outright lies. And he has to just have made this sort of calculation that he's more interested in protecting the president than he is in supporting the Justice Department and its work, and it's really sickening as a former prosecutor.
Exactly, Joyce. What was it about? Was it Kansas City? He said there was 200 arrests. This wasn't yesterday. There was one. Right. I mean, how do you have an attorney general that is just as big or bigger a liar than the president, that just repeats conspiracy theories, calls it a Russia hoax, calls it says, oh yeah, the vote by mail will be fraud, based on absolutely no evidence.
I'll actually take up for Barr just a tiny bit here and say on his mistake about the numbers, I suspect he was legitimately confused about which operation was which. That doesn't speak very well of him as an attorney general, but I don't think that he meant to lie about the number of arrests. What's so troubling, for instance, as you point out, was out of the chute, his characterization of the Russia investigation as a hoax. And we know it wasn't. We know that Russia tried to interfere in the election. We know that Bob Mueller in a Justice Department that Bill Barr now leads has 2 massive indictments pending against Russians and the Russian intelligence service for trolling and hacking in an effort to interfere in our election. And Roger Stone lied and held the line there so that the truth never came to light. But Bill Barr has the audacity to call that a hoax.
I always wonder your take on who did best legally. I felt like Swalwell and Jayapal were, who did you think legally drew blood, or what were the most significant moments?
I thought that there were some good moments. These hearings are always really tough because of the 5-minute intervals. It's choppy. When I'm a prosecutor, I'm just up there eliciting a narrative from the witness, and nobody's really interrupting me too much. And Congress doesn't have that luxury. So as you point out, there were some shining moments. Smallwell pointing out that the Attorney General had interfered in no sentencings other than Roger Stone's. Jayapal is always fabulous. I'm going to butcher his name, although I'm a huge fan. Is it David Ciccolone?
Ciccolone, yeah.
I always say it wrong. It's so embarrassing. Forgive me, Congressman. But I thought that the moment where he got the Attorney General to concede that he would not categorically refuse to use tear gas on protesters was awful.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I thought you were talking about this one. Let's listen to this real quick. David Ciccolone. Here we go.
In April of this year, the Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee unanimously found that Russia interfered with our elections and attempted to undermine American democracy, correct?
And I said so, too.
Is it ever appropriate, sir, for the president to solicit or accept foreign assistance in an election?
Depends what kind of assistance.
Is it ever appropriate for the president or presidential candidate to accept or solicit foreign assistance of any kind in his or her election?
No, it's not appropriate.
Okay, sorry you had to struggle with that one, Mr. Attorney General.
Why? That's not a struggle, is it, Joyce? The answer is an unequivocal no. It's not okay.
Softball
Joyce is
question,
frozen.
right? That answer was supposed to be the Attorney General saying no. That should have just been an easy no. The Attorney General should have automatically responded no. And the fact that he didn't, it made me think of that point in time where he was asked by Senator Harris whether anybody in the White House had ever directed him to open a case or had hinted that he should close a case, and he couldn't just say no. He really struggled with easy questions.
And on Twitter, Joyce, you said Representative Jayapal perfectly demonstrates the line from Barr's unwavering support for Trump instead of justice that runs straight from his treatment of Flynn and Stone into Portland. And that was a great moment. As you also say, Barr defends his support for armed white protesters who took over a Michigan state house with an appeal to the rights of governors, which is just about the most absurd, hypocritical statement he's made as unrequested federal forces remain in Portland. Yeah, I mean, the number of things he wasn't aware of, right?
Yeah.
Like that they weren't threatening to lynch Governor Whitmer, and I wasn't aware of any of Trump's tweets, thanking or threatening Stone or whatever. I mean, is that? I guess it is a defense, right? Just I don't recall is the only legal defense, or I didn't see it.
It can't be true. It defies belief. He gets a daily briefing from the FBI on certain issues. He gets a briefing from his own staff. The fact that these sorts of events and issues aren't all filtering up to him either signifies that he's being untruthful here. Maybe he's technically saying, I don't read Twitter. Somebody on his staff tells him about the president's tweets. Or alternatively, he's the most dysfunctional, incompetent attorney general we've ever had if he's unaware that there were threats against elected leaders in Michigan.
Well, yeah. And also I thought Swalwell...
Sorry, it just makes me so angry. It's really hard to not get angry, which is surprising to me,
Oh, no, I got out all the really inappropriate... I got all the really inappropriate stuff out last hour so that I wouldn't do it with you about Bill Barr. All the really unprofessional, immature, just emotion.
I'm sorry I missed it.
No, I know, because I get it. You're a very esteemed legal analyst, and you have to look at the legal points. But even on the legal points, I just thought... where is it? Give me 5, Swalwell. You have to explain this to me legally. Here we are.
Are you familiar with the December 3rd, 2018 tweet where Donald Trump said Roger Stone had shown guts by not testifying against him?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
You don't read the president's tweets?
No.
Well, there's a lot of evidence in the president's tweets, Mr. Attorney General. I think you should start reading them because he said Mr. Stone showed guts, but on July 10 of this year, Roger Stone declared to a reporter, I had 29 or 30 conversations with Trump during the campaign period. Trump knows I was under enormous pressure to turn on him. It would have eased my situation considerably, but I didn't.
Is there any clearer legal evidence that someone is doing exactly what what Barr was asked? He's gave a pardon to keep someone quiet. Right? I mean, Trump's tweets and Stone's statements back that up, don't they?
So Stone's sentence was commuted. He will serve no time in prison. That is a move that will, at least in the short term, keep him quiet because it's unlikely that Bill Barr's Justice Department will put him in front of a grand jury and question him under oath, which is what should be happening right now if the Justice Department was functional. So there's just, Barr is lined up with the president's agenda here. There's really no other way of looking at it.
Yeah. We were just talking about this before the break. Joyce says, I don't know, our friend Glenn Kirshner just says, there has to be a Trump Crimes Commission. And I feel like it's not political prosecution and vindictiveness, is it? I mean, I feel like it's standing up for the Constitution and our rule of law and saying this can never happen again in America. What's your take on that?
This, I think, is a very difficult question, and it's not one that's susceptible to Twitter bumper sticker length discussions. There will have to be some sort of a look back into what happened and how we got here, particularly how we deal with foreign influence on elections. I'm less bullish on sort of prosecuting political decisions. And my comparison for that is thinking about the torture memo in the Bush White House and Eric Holder's decision not to prosecute so that the country could move forward. And I think avoiding that sort of a slippery slope where political decisions become criminalized may not be satisfactory to us, but it's something we need to carefully consider. Not having all the facts in front of me, I have to say that I'm just sort of in the middle on that one. But I think when you're just talking about random crimes, people who engage in campaign finance fraud, people who engage, I'm just going to randomly pick some crimes out of a hat, insurance fraud, foundation fraud, tax fraud, take your pick. I think those sort of crimes are fair game, and there has to be accountability. And that's what this whole fight over the president's taxes are about. It's about protecting the president and people in his inner circle from prosecution. No man is above the law. The president can't be above the law. There will have to be an investigation, but God help us, in this politicized environment, the American people will have to be rigorous and serious about their responsibilities as citizens so that we do it in a fair way.
Yeah. Well, you make, some.
That's going to be tough.
Okay. Ooh, we had a little break up there, but, for instance, you say Trump's arguments for keeping Manhattan DA Vance from getting his tax returns are weak in light of the SCOTUS ruling. Trump looks desperate to keep those records from coming to light. It feels like we have all of these perfect storms coming together. And then you talked about you said, did Doug Collins just say the Durham investigation, which we're hopeful of? Since when is it appropriate for a congressman to hope a criminal investigation will come out one way or another? This is what we're fearful of, right? Him ginning up some October surprise based on BS, right?
Well, it seems clear that Barr will. He declined yesterday to say that he would follow DOJ policy on not releasing an indictment or a criminal investigation or whatever it is that he's thinking of close to the election. Typically in DOJ, that's information out. Oh no.
Okay, wait, I can hear you now. We can hear you. You're back.
Okay.
Sorry, say that one more time.
Typically, folks at DOJ, U.S. attorneys, just like the Attorney General, abstain from engaging in political prosecutions too close to an election. You don't want to influence the outcome of an election. Barr wouldn't commit to doing that yesterday, and he has made changes to the internal DOJ policy memos that signal he may be planning on going full Jim Comey.
Okay, quickly. Oh, wish we had you for an hour. But you wrote a great piece about the what's happening in Portland, and you made a great point on TV. You said, "Stay off federal property." It gets rid of their stupid loophole that they're using to tear gas moms and veterans. Because you also talk about the Fourth Amendment requires probable cause to believe a person has committed a crime before seizure. So, talk a little bit quickly about what this piece is saying and what your advice is for protesters.
Yeah. So, my point in writing the piece was my concern. I listened to the president's coronavirus briefing last Wednesday, and he talked about protesters in Portland, and he talked about violent crime in Chicago, and he conflated them as though they were the same thing. He said, well, we can send forces to Chicago to stop violent crime there, just like we did in Portland. Portland was coming apart at the seams. And I thought, Black Lives Matter protesters, moms out in the street, the wall of vets, those are not criminals. Those are Americans exercising their First Amendment rights. And if there are some violent folks out there, so be it, then law enforcement should treat them appropriately and constitutionally. But, there's video after video of peaceful protesters, and the president is treating them like they're a, violent crime, high crime neighborhood in another city. That I thought was something he should not have been permitted to get away with, and that he was not sufficiently called on for doing. And to your point about protesters and advice to them, this is actually from Elizabeth de la Vega, a former assistant United States attorney, and she flagged this first. She said, if the protesters just get a few blocks away from any federal property, the defense of federal property justification that's being used for the presence of U.S. Marshals and I think Federal Protective Service from DHS at these facilities, they can't really just say, okay, well, now we're going to go half a mile out from the U.S. courthouse and start looking around for crime. It doesn't work that way. Under the Constitution, states and locals run local policing.
Yeah, don't give Trump the campaign ads he's looking for. This has been one of the most exciting moments of my life. I know you are with us despite having a chicken-related incident there in Alabama.
Alabama!
I hope you're okay. You threw your back out getting a chicken out of something, out of a coop.
Out of the coop.
Oh.
The chickens are apparently very demanding on my time these days.
That could not be more charming. What's with the names? What's Joyce Aline, Joyce White Vance? Just quickly, which is it?
Joyce Aline is actually my name, and I had a Twitter account for a zillion years, but I didn't tweet. I just used it to read news. As a sitting U.S. attorney, I didn't necessarily want anyone to know it was me, so I just used my childhood name.
Oh, all right. So we're going with Joyce Vance, though, for professional purposes.
Joyce Vance is my adult name.
May I call you the Chicken Whisperer? Okay. We're just going.
Yeah, we'll see if that's true, but have at it.
All right, we'll go with that. Thank you, Joyce.
Thanks,
Fantastic.
Joyce.
Thank you
So much for having me.
Please come back. Thank you. Yay.
Yay.
Anytime.